guys, I'm gonna be giving you a quick overview of the multi-view render add-on. I created this add-on because multiple times working with clients, I found myself sending a bunch of pictures of different angles I wanted to try, or sometimes I wanted to show a feature of what I was sending, but I also liked a different idea. Or sometimes I sent a picture and the client wanted to see it from a different angle. It happened to that I was doing some sort of visual for a client, like a video, and I was shooting it from one angle and the client wanted a different angle. Sometimes we'll be going back and forth and I'll be sending multiple pictures of, okay, what do you think if we shoot it from here? What do you think of this angle? I decided to create this add-on because it allows me to create a collage of images for my client. It saves me a lot of time, a lot of going back and forth. I'm just gonna give you a quick tour. Hopefully this is something that you can find useful. So here we go. Before anything, you will need to install it like you would install any other add-on in Blender. Just go to the add-ons tab, click install, and then you will find the folder where your add-on is. Once you click it to install it, it's going to take a minute because it has to install some dependencies that are needed for the app. That might take a minute. So if you see that your UI freezes for a minute, that's okay. It's just installing. Now, this is very important. You need to run Blender as administrator that first time you're installing the dependencies, just because you need to give special privileges to the software to install the dependencies. But after that, you can just run Blender as normal. The add-on is divided in 4 sections that we're just going to go over. And before those sections, there is this button up here. It's just a toggle button. That allows you to render multi-view, like the purpose of the add-on, and because of that, it's going to be the default. If you switch it to normal, we see that these buttons down here switch, then it would just render like natively Blender would render, just like you would with pressing F12. I just wanted to give you the option because maybe you are not using the add-on for the multi-view feature, but because of the camera placement, I think the camera placement is very useful. It's very easy. At least it helps me a lot. I don't want to add a camera the old ways anymore. Just prefer to add it with this add-on. But otherwise, it would just be multi-view. That's how it's set up to be. So this section here has this button that adds 6 cameras, and they are in orthographic view, basically. So by default, it's going to have 6, but you can change this number to your desired amount of cameras. Now, if I add the cameras, you will see that 6 cameras are added around the object. And it can give you just like a 6 point of view. This here is a distance button or slider that allows you to get the cameras close or farther from your object. So let's say that I'm just looking through the camera. You can see how well centered your object is. And you can look from all the angles. So let's say that I'm looking from the top. I decide the camera is just too close. I can just pull it back a little bit. Now, like I said, by default, you have 6 cameras, but you may not want to give 6 point of view render to your client. You might prefer to just do like a frontal and side view. Like, for example, I've done in this case, you can just do that. So if you want to, for example, just give the frontal and side view, you can just decide you only want 2 cameras, and you will render only a frontal and a side view, and you can add back the cameras. So for now, let's just give this 6. And because your object origin might not be always at the center, and the cameras are added to the origin of your object, I've included these buttons here that allow you to center the camera. So let's say we're looking at the front camera and your object is too high or too low. You can just adjust here where the cameras are going to be centered. And same with back and forth and X. So you may not see this feature from here, but if we look at the left camera and we move it, you can see that it's centering right there. Now, this button here, it allows you to move the cameras, turn the cameras around the object, just in case you find that the orthographic views are not very flattering. You may turn your object a little bit and give a slightly different view. So now if we look from all the cameras, you're going to see your object is moved a little. Now, this also allows you to do a panoramic view around your object. So let's say that I want one camera up here, looking from it, everything looks good. I can keyframe this this turn here, and then as I turn it, it will just give you a panoramic view around your object. So if I want to do a video for my client, this object rotating, or this, if I have a scene, I want to just give a panoramic view of the object. I can easily do it with this, and you can change the distance. This is something that you can do very different ways, but I thought it would be cool to just have it right here at your fingertips. So there is that, and that will be all for the multi-view cameras only. Now the next section, it is for all the cameras, and also focus on new camera creation. So I have these 3 buttons here, and it basically allows me to go to camera view, just like you would with number 0, to center the scene or center the camera, depending on if you are in camera view or not, just like you would with your home button, and to bring the camera to view, just like you would with Control-Alt number 0 in your numpad. Many people prefer to use the hotkeys, and that's very cool. I use them a lot. But some people just prefer to have things right here to use it with your mouse. That's why I created that there. Let's say that I create a new camera, and I want this angle right here. When I hit create a camera, it will take me to camera view, and will also automatically be in move mode. So when I hit it, it takes me to camera view, and I can just move the camera and place it right where I want it. For example, if I didn't like that and I want to be right here, it will automatically just take that camera, the camera that is active, and select it, and just bring it right here, just like you would with Control-Alt-0. But I find it really easy just to have it right here. I don't have to be taking my hand off my mouse. I've added this function here, which is not quite exactly moving your camera back and forth, but it's kind of like cheap. And unless you're doing professional cinematography, this is gonna work for you. So if I add a new camera here, but I think it's too close, I've added the focal length here that will allow you to just move the object back or forth. And like I say, it does a very similar effect to move your camera back and forth. It is not doing that, it's just changing the focal length. But for most cases, it will work. Like I say, unless you're doing something very specific that you shouldn't be changing your focal length, this is gonna work for you. It works for me all the time. I don't need to be very specific about the focal length. So there is that. It just allows you to have better control over the camera. And if you don't like that, like I say, you can just always take it to camera view. Every time you take it to camera view or you create a new camera, it's automatically gonna go into the move mode. And that is just because when you add a camera, it's almost never right where you want it. So I wanted to give you that freedom of just like tweaking it right before you place it. And I think that's a great function. The next feature here, and you can see this little toggle button here. If you toggle it on, it's going to tell you to select an object. That allows you to create a camera that is going to rotate around the object. And like I said before, this is something that you can do various different ways, but I wanted to just give you the opportunity to have it right there, because you might need it. So let's say that it's similar to what we did up here, right? So let's say that I have a camera down here, and I add it, and I have that toggle down. I add the camera, place it right here. You will see that this new button appear here. Now when I move it, it will just go around the object. So it not only allows me to find a better angle that I might like, I might like this better than this, but it will also allow me to do a video if I key this. That will just showcase my object. Now, if you add another camera and that's still selected, you select the same object and you create a different camera, place it right here. Now, by moving this, you will move both cameras, the one that you previously added and this one. You can create another camera and have that toggled off, and will be created, but will not interact with the object. It will just not rotate at all. Now, if you have a secondary object, let's say I'm going to duplicate this, put it here, and you decide to add a camera to this object that will rotate around the object, like this one, the camera is going to rotate around the object. However, these cameras will no longer rotate around this object. It will disable those, and that's because I am assuming that you are done doing what you were doing with this object and moved on to the next object. Now, if this is something that you guys don't like and I have several feedback about it, I will change it. But as of right now, I am assuming that this is more ergonomic. Okay. Following that, there is this area that will show all the cameras you have on the scene, all the visible cameras, right? As you click on the camera, you will not only select that camera, but you also make it the active camera. So there's a difference between selecting this camera or selecting this camera and making that camera the active camera, right? So if I select this camera, it becomes the active object. But if I select this, it doesn't. So in order for me to do that, I will have to find that camera and there we go, and make it the active camera. This is a better way to do it, at least for me. So I know that I'm making that camera the active camera. Also, if I'm here in the camera view and I just switch from camera to camera, I think it's super easy. Just look at all the angles you have. There are these buttons here. They are similar to the buttons you have up here. They basically make your camera renderable or not. So if you are rendering a multi-view render, only the cameras that are active here will be rendering for that collage or that render. So if you have these cameras turned off, only these two cameras will be showing in your render, not this down here. And I wanted to add that because maybe you have 3 cameras that are really good and you have another 2 that are really good too, but you don't want to delete them. You think, okay, this should be in different collages or like different renders. So you can just toggle them off here, do your render, and then just go around and turn off the other ones and keep this one on and do the same. There is these buttons here that will delete each camera individually. So if I want to get rid of this camera, I'll just get rid of it. Also, I wanted to mention that every camera that is the active camera will have this icon in front of it. That way you can kind of keep track of which camera is your active one. Of course, you can always look at which one has the black triangle, but it's easier when you're looking at this here to just say, okay, this is the one I'm looking at right now or I'm looking through. Down here, there is this little button, and I made it as little as possible because you don't want to accidentally delete all the cameras in your scene that you've created after a lot of work. So now it says all visible cameras, because if you have a camera that is hidden, it will not delete that camera. So let's say that you have a big scene and you have this object in the scene and you created just a bunch of cameras around that you're doing different angles and different things. And there is one camera, there is the official camera for your, animation, for your movie. And the other cameras were just for like showcase, you were doing different things. And you want to delete all those cameras, and let's say, you have 15 cameras, or you want to mess around with things, you can just hide your true camera, the very important one, and then mess around with all the cameras, and once you're done, you can just delete all the visible cameras, delete them all, but it will not delete the ones that are hidden. Following, there is this section here. It's just a section for illumination. Maybe you have your preferred illumination add-on. You don't have to use this at all. In fact, I'm planning on releasing a version that has the illumination section and a version that doesn't, just because some people might just use the add-on for camera handling and are not interested in this section at all. But I wanted to include it just for for people that don't have any, or people that just find it handy to have it all right here. So the first section is 3-point lighting. As you would with most 3-point lighting add-ons, you would just select your object and just hit it, and you will get your 3-point light. So now I'm just going to go into a render view right here. I'm just going to give this monkey a random material. After you create that, you will see that there is this box here. You can just open the box. There are going to be some buttons here. First one is the distance that you want the light. Second one is the rotation that you want your light. And the third one is the height you want your light. Down here you have power of your light and the color. So If I want something like this, and then for the second light, I want something like this. There we go. I mean, it's just a basic 3-point lighting. So the first button here allows you to select what kind of light it is, and that's for the 3-point lighting, just basic 3-point lighting. Second one is a sky. It will be creating a Nishita sky and give you some options. So if I hit it, it will just create the sky, and then you will see the box down here to work with it. If you put it down to 0, you will see, where right now we're just looking at the illumination here, those 3-point lighting that we created. So you can have just a better idea, or you can just make your background transparent. If you have a second object, so I'm going to duplicate this monkey and put it right here. If I select the second monkey and I hit the 3-point lighting, now the 3-point lighting is going to move to this second monkey and it's going to restart. So yes, you don't want to hit this every time, because it will just kind of like reset and reset and reset. So once you have it, just don't hit the button again, because it's meant to do that. Let's say that you created your 3-point lighting here, I wanted to create it here. I don't want to have to delete all of this. I just hit the next object and move on. I want to delete my 3-point lighting, so I'm just gonna, I can delete here each light. Now moving back to the sky that we had here, just gonna bring the strength back up. So this is going to behave just like Nishita does, right? It's just basically Nishita's parameters here, air, dust, ozone, and things like that. Now I've added this option here of solid background, because maybe you want the illumination of the sky, but maybe you want your background a different color. So for example, I want this background black. I can just do this, and my monkey will be illuminated with the sky. I can move all of these factors here. That will be the illumination, but the background will be a different color. So I can switch this to whatever color you want, and that's how it's going to be in the render. That is if you select the solid background here. Many prefer to illuminate with the HDRI, and that's why I've added this option here. You can do that, and if you hit it, everything's going to be purple, and that's because you need to select your HDRI. So when you open it, just load your image. I have my HDRIs here, so I select one. There we go. There is these buttons here that allow me to go to the next image in my folder, in case you have a folder with all of your HDRIs. Similar to with the sky, in the background here, you can choose if you want it solid, or if not, you want your original, or if you want blurred. And yeah, you can just toggle between those. There is that for the illumination. I'm just gonna move it back to sky here. Below here, there is the resolution. There's the frames coming right here. There's the transparent background, and there is the override. This one only works for the multi-view render. It is not the same as this one. So as you toggle it, it's not going to change. It's not the same as the transparent. The transparent is for the whole scene. Doesn't matter what you do. Down here is the other section, and it's the render section, including this. And I explained already these two buttons. So this button here, it gives you a screenshot of your model in wireframe. So let's say that I don't even have to go into this mode. I can be right here. And before everything, whenever you try to render, it's going to tell you to save your project. So if I hit it here, it's going to tell me you need to save your project. So I'm just going to go ahead and save my project. So if I hit wireframe, it's going to tell me it's been saved. Check your project folder. So if I go to my project folder and I see it right here, it's going to be a wireframe of my monkey. And this is something really helpful for when you're working for someone that needs to take into account how heavy your mesh is. I use it a lot for kind of like to prove, okay, I actually made this. This is a wireframe of what I did, just as a way of saying I didn't download this image from the internet. I actually made it. Every time you render it, it's going to save there as wireframe. So if you have a different view You might have to change this name because, you know, if I go from this view here, this back view here, and I render it, and I go to my folder, now it's going to be from the back. So yeah, so if you're doing a bunch of those, change the name, multi-view image. So basically what it's going to do is going to render all the cameras you have on the scene into one single image. For that purpose, I'm just going to add back the multi-view cameras, and I want to do 6 of those. I'm going to do just the transparent background. If I hit render right here, it's going to take a minute, and for many of you, your screen might freeze for a minute, and remember that the add-on is rendering as many cameras as you have. There's a bunch of renders, and depending on what you're rendering, it might need to take a minute. So now it will tell you that your image is in your folder. So you go back to your project folder, you click your image, and you will see that in your image, all of your monkeys are right there. Now, if I want to add another camera, so let's say that I want another camera right here, and I want another camera, a super close one, so I want it kind of like right here. Yeah, there you go. And I hit render it again. All the images are going to be included, the old ones and the new ones. All right, because it's just doing as many cameras as you have. Now, if you're adding more and more cameras, what I would suggest is that you toggle off this. Otherwise, it will be rendering your same images again. If you are doing a whole new render, yes, toggle it on. But if you're just adding more cameras to your render, you can just leave it off. That way, you're saving computer time. Now, if you're doing a video, it's kind of similar. It will do a video of all the cameras on the scene. Let's say that I want to do. Okay, I'm gonna delete all the cameras real quick. And I'm gonna do 5 cameras here, and I'm gonna add those cameras. Okay, cool. And then I'm gonna add another camera right here. I'm gonna add the camera. I'm just gonna center it right there where I want it. I'm gonna key this, and I'm gonna move it to 10. Let's do 20. Actually, let's do 30. And then I'm gonna rotate this like this, and I'm gonna key it. Okay, I kind of like that. Now, because this is doing an animation of each camera, it's basically, let's say that you set it to 30 frames, which I'm gonna do right now. Now it's rendering 30 frames, per camera. So it's 6 times 30. It's 180 frames that you are rendering right now. Because of that, I wanted to optimize the process. And there are 2 ways, right? If let's say that you have a character that is walking, just like, for example, this, a walking cycle. And yes, I want all the cameras in the scene, which in this case is 2 cameras, to record. But in this case that we did with our monkey rotating like this, there are 5 cameras that only have still views, and one of them is doing the video. You can toggle here. And if you toggle this button here, or little square, it's going to add another section. And when you select an object, it's going to give you the option to add a video camera. This camera that we created here, I'm just going to delete it. I'm going to create this camera. This button here is similar as this, right? Add your camera, which, in this case, kind of like want it right here. And then, you rotate right here. So we go back to here, and we key the camera. Okay, and then we rotate it again, and key it one more time. What this does, this special camera, the add-on is saying, okay, for all these cameras, just render the first frame, and then copy that first frame onto all the other frames, instead of like rendering it over and over again for exactly the same picture. And then for this camera, render all the frames. So we're going to do that now. And like I said, if your object is moving, you don't care about this because, this you want information for each frame for all the cameras, because your object will be moving. But if your object is static and the camera is moving, then this is the camera to go, because these are only going to take stills, and this is going to take the video. So I'm going to say render. All right, so it says it's done. We check the folder, and this took way less time. It's doing what it's supposed to. And you can of course make this slower, make it cooler, better angle, make it rotate better. But this is the main idea, and I wanted to show you that. Still it's gonna, when you render, it's still gonna take you a minute, because remember, it's rendering all the frames for this camera, and it's also rendering just the first frame for these cameras, but it's still checking, okay, I have to add this render to the next frame and add this render to the next frame and do it for all the frames. So even though it's saving you time because it's not rendering every time, it still has to copy the image into all the renders. So it's still a video of a bunch of cameras, so it's not gonna be 10 seconds. But this way is gonna be way faster than the other way, and just because you're rendering all the frames for this camera, not for the other ones. If you render with just this, it's gonna render then all the frames for all the cameras. And I would do that if your object was moving, but in this case it wasn't. It was just a pan around. That's what I used. That. And that's basically a functionality of the add-on. It could be used not just for showing products, but also for scenes. So let's say that you're working on this scene and you're working with your client, and you can say, okay, I have this angle here for this video that we're doing or whatever, and I have this angle here, and we have this angle right here. Okay, and then you can say, okay, give me an image of that. It's gonna tell you it's done. You go to your folder. So in one image, you're gonna be able to show all the angles you're thinking of, and your client might say, I like this one, or let's try something different but similar to this. It won't only work for showcasing products or models or things like that, but it'll also work when you're working on bigger projects, or working on a scene. You can show different ideas. All of it will be in one image. One limitation the add-on has is that once you start rendering, there is no way to stop it because it's on a loop, rendering each camera. I have not figured a way yet to make it stop, just because when you render an animation with Blender, it allows you to stop it, but from the console, from the script, I'm not allowed to stop it. I'm working on figure it out, but yet there's no way. So the only way to stop it is to kill Blender. So I urge you to be sure of what you're rendering before you start the process, and also save your project before you start rendering, just in case you have to stop the render for any reason. You will most likely have to end Blender's process. I hope you find it useful. You can give me any feedback. Thank you.